Welcome back, Red Spotters! Another show in the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. David Francisco, and you know what that means. We're here for another recap of our Loki extended series, talking every single week about the latest episode of the Disney Plus series, dropping on every single Wednesday. Loki, starring Tom Hiddleston, and many others. Last week we discussed the amazing fourth episode, and today we have episode 5 called Journey into Mystery. We start off with our initial spoiler-free impressions, and then David will lead our conversation as the episode happened in sequence, kind of like a breakdown as to what you would expect. All of that here on Red Spotlight number 337. This is 337. Yeah, okay, just making sure it's the right one. I've lost count at this point. There are so many shows that we do. All right. So, David, people were flipping their shit last week for, you know, all of the let's say it in a poor vocabulary, all the shit that went down last week in the episode as far as revelations and twists and character motivations, and it was honestly kind of as perfect an episode of television could have gotten last week. And so we usually have this effect where in any season of television you get an episode like that, and then it's immediately followed up by an episode that by no means is bad or subpar or but because, especially in week-to-week television, if you have an episode that immediately follows a great one, and it can't keep up with how great the previous one was, there are many people who go out and say, I was underwhelmed, or, I kind of expected more, or, it's like, it's going, but it's not really where I wanted to go just yet. And it happens sometimes, I feel like, it's just kind of a byproduct, I feel, of week-to-week television. You're always comparing what episode you're watching of a series to immediately what came beforehand. I remember when we were discussing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? The last season, we had the best episode of the season, which was the time loop episode. And then immediately following that one, we had kind of a come down before the climax, or the beginning of the climax, or the beginning of the action episode. And so I'm not going to say that, this week's episode really much felt like the calm before the storm. It kind of put all of the pieces in, it set the stage for the finale. Kind of like, we're talking about the Disney Plus and Marvel shows with WandaVision and with Falcon and Winter Soldier. The penultimate episodes really do seem to at least end in a way where all of the pieces are on the chessboard ready to fight off in the final action set pieces that will come in the finale. I felt overall this was as strong an episode as the season has produced. I don't know. I think maybe this would be probably on my personal bottom tier of the episodes, if only because, and this is where I'm a little bit conflicted, I liked a lot about the episode. The performances especially. The moments that we got through the characters especially were the strongest parts. And shout outs to, oh my goodness, what's her name? The Natalie Holt, who is the composer of the series. The music has been spectacular. I think perhaps, Natalie Holt might be giving even Alan Silvestri, who in my view has composed the best music that the MCU has seen so far, a run for his money. Spectacular quality of music for the standards of television, that's for sure. I think the music, when I see the scenes, the music is almost a character in and of itself, is how great it has been so far. Which, by the way, I think they just on Apple Music and on Spotify, they just put her music of the first 3 episodes of Loki in one album. If you want to go listen to that, go listen to it, because I have, and it's great. For those of us that like to listen to soundtrack music. And then also the VFX, like, wow. I mean, this episode, I was like, we made some, I don't want to say we were making fun of it. We were just pointing out that in all of the Disney Plus series, for how touted they have been for all of the money being poured in, each have had their moments where, well, we could tell a little bit in between the cracks that particular shot wasn't all that finished, or they're very clearly standing in front of a green screen. That happens in this episode as well. Mm-hmm. You think there's a particular shot where you see Hiddleston and DiMartino and Wilson and Grant in front of a green screen while they're outside, parts of it anyway, but it still looked good, so it is what it is, right? But that being said, I mean, the episode featured some of the best VFX work I've seen in television. Like, I was blown away by the massive projection, in particular, that Richard E. Grant's character was able to cast. It looked cinematic. This is the goal for what these shows are trying to do, and it captured just that. Again, continuous, wonderful, luscious, I'm not even sure that's a way to describe it, luscious dialogue that Michael Waldron is able to write through these characters. And Richard E. Grant stole the show. He's an amazing actor, but as old Loki, great performance. So those are, for me, the real big positive takeaways of the episode. I think ultimately what I'm going to be thinking of, if there is something that I'm a little unsure of, now I want to make sure that I clarify this. I'm not at the moment saying this is exactly how I feel, but I am beginning to sense that while a lot of these moments, especially, between Loki and Sylvie, and then also at the end toward Loki and Mobius, while I think in just a short amount of time, they've been able to make me care about those relationships, make me care about their dynamic and their friendships, I couldn't help but feel several moments this episode, especially when we had those moments between Sylvie and Loki, and then Mobius, or Lokius, if you want to call him that way. I couldn't help but feel that maybe this would have been just this bit stronger if this wasn't all packed in the same episode. It at times it did feel as if they were rushing to get to this and then get to the finale. And I can't help but wonder if maybe this is one of those examples where maybe we could have used an additional 1 to 2 episodes, maybe a little bit longer of a season to have the full impact of it. I still felt those moments, don't get me wrong. I'm just thinking in the back of my mind somewhere, maybe if this would have been better utilized, if it didn't come all in at once after the other. And then we have the finale and then the show's over next week. So, which is, I don't think I've said, I mean, I feel like at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I also was of the mind that while I did like the show overall, like really, I really did like it, I still would have liked to have seen an additional 1 to 2 episodes. WandaVision, I think, had a good amount. I don't think we had an issue there. I think our issues with WandaVision ultimately came at, the creative directions of some of the characters and how they weren't thematically tied in all the way. And here with Loki, I'm enjoying it so much. I just why does it have to be only 6 episodes? I mean, well, one of the answers is, well, look at the budget that this episode had. I mean, look at how much money they poured into it, and that's great. But it's just a thought that I had. And overall, that's where I'm at. David, what do you think?
I really like this episode. The Loki variants were very fun to watch and everything. It was fun hearing their stories of their timelines and everything. And also just kind of the apocalyptic place that they were at. I noticed a lot of cool Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, they definitely were.
But I enjoyed mostly Loki and Sylvie. being back together in this and having another moment between the two, which I think it went on better than on episode 3. I liked episode 3, but this one was just, we got a bit more. What else? And it was, I don't know. It was just really a super fun episode with all the Loki variants and all that. I don't know. It's kind of basically what happened. It's just, that's right. We got a cool moment with, you were kind of spoiled. I'll wait till spoilers.
Did I spoil anything?
Well, the Richard E. Grant illusion thing. It was just kind of like
I said that Richard E. Grant used a projection spell and it looked amazing.
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay.
That's all I said. I didn't say what he was doing with it. I hope I didn't say it, but yeah.
No, I don't think so. Okay, yeah, that's my bad. Okay. Yeah, either way though. I was going to mention something that, it would have been spoilers. But yeah, overall, it was honestly just a fun episode. I don't know if this episode made me go, I wish we had more. I think what we got in this, it was okay. Really just the only reason why I would want more episodes, just to get more scenes with Loki and Mobius or Loki and Sylvie and all that.
Right.
And kind of just have fun with the whole alternate timeline stuff.
Yeah.
But I think this episode was just great.
I agree with you. I felt like, this is up to the standard. It's up to par with how I felt overall. A consistent, great quality overall in the series. And ultimately, when I say that I want more episodes, that's kind of the reason why. It's because to have more moments between the characters, but then also to really enhance the big moments that we got in this episode. Although I will say, it's like I still felt it. I still felt the impact of those moments, even though they've been able to, it's honestly amazing in how short a time they've been able to really create investment in these characters, that they were able to get as much emotion as they were out of this episode. I still would be on the side of, but maybe another episode or two would have made it just that much more impactful. But that's just where I come from at it. But overall, I agree. It's another great episode. And I'm just like, okay, so where do we go from now? Where do we go from this? Again, as far as how the episode, it starts off, that tag at the end of last week was like crazy, and I don't think it disappoints with what it delivers as far as where we are most in this episode. But I'm also just kind of saddened also, because why does this have to be over already? And how is it already over? How is it that this is the 5th episode that we're already talking about it, which means like this is the 5th week, and it's been over a month already that we've been talking about Loki. It hasn't even felt that way. It's like, man, damn it. I really would like more out of them, than just like 6 weeks. So, and I also don't even know when the next one's even showing up, what the next Marvel Disney Plus show is at this point. But whatever it is, David and I will be there to cover it. That's just how it has been like so far. So, with that being said, those are our thoughts for this episode. David, before we get into the spoilers and the breakdown of the episode, have you noticed any of the social media reactions? How are people generally liking or not liking this episode?
I haven't noticed any reactions. I've only seen 2 videos, and both of them, they mostly just loved Richard E. Grant.
Yes.
That's basically it. But other than that, I don't really know what else people thought about.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got 2 different reactions from 2 prominent YouTubers. One would be John Campea, and the other would be Grace Randolph. John Campea was ultimately a little bit let down, but still really enjoyed the episode. And his reaction was kind of the one that I was referencing beforehand, where people, they really do like weigh, how they feel about an episode immediately with the one that came before it. And then also with the other case, which would be Randolph, in which she was like blown away by it and like, this is great, like this is a really great episode. So like an interesting reaction, an interesting mix of reactions that we have there. So but there we are. So with that being said, let's go ahead and lift the veil, as they say, and get into the episode as it happened in sequence. David, where do we start off this week?
Well, we started off... Oh, well, you got a cool shot of the TVA place and everything. It's just, I don't know, it's just a cool shot.
It's a cool upside down going into the upright way shot. I love when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool. Simple, but it's so fun.
Yeah. And then it cuts to Loki in the apocalyptic world, if you saw the after credit scene from last week. And
which, by the way, real quick, I don't mean to like already cut you off here, but there was something that someone said that I couldn't help but wonder, in regards to, the post credit scene. Like, we watch all these week to week, so when the post credit scenes happen, I mean, obviously we'll hear about them, and even if we miss them, well, we'll hear about them and we'll go watch them, right? But have we ever like given any thought to like somebody who is like waiting to binge this show in one shot? What if they like happen to miss the post credits? Like, here's Joanna Robinson from Vanity Fair, and she tweeted out, "Had a friend watch all of WandaVision in a gulp the other day. And when she got to the end, she asked me where White Vision came from, because if you'll recall, he's introed in a mid or end credits sequence. And I have to wonder if those are a great idea in general for something ... that someone might watch in a binge without the luxury of week-to-week coverage, reminding them to check for end or mid-credit sequences, So it's interesting. I wonder, like, this kind of brings up the question, if you're watching Loki all at once, could it be very possible that you'd miss that credit sequence completely? Because it seemingly happened with the case of WandaVision, where people were like, where the fuck? Because that's right, if you do miss that credit scene in episode 9 or episode 8 of WandaVision, you'd be like, episode 8, where you'd be like, where the fuck did this White Vision come from?
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't think of that. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I didn't think of it either. I mean, we're so used to it in the movies because we're so trained to see it that way. But and since like the shows are airing week to week, if there is one, we see it and we talk about it. But like if this all came out at once, and if you're binging it all at once, what are the chances that you'll just miss some of these entirely?
I think maybe for Loki, you probably would be confused a little bit, but you're also kind of like, oh, hey, cool. Like, he's alive. Just you're
thrown back into it immediately in this episode.
Yeah. True. And I think maybe that's why they did the shot, because it's kind of like leading you on, like, here, this is where we were, this is where we are, and this is what's happening now. And then, like, this is partly what happened last week. And then you cut to Loki, and he's alive and all that. And so I think for this one specifically, it's fine. But yeah, the one for WandaVision, though, that's a big, that's a giant surprise that you really need to, like, ease someone into it.
Yeah. So. Like, imagine how we all would be if White Vision just showed up out of nowhere. It's like, wait, what? Interesting level here. Also, one other thing that we brought up when we were talking about WandaVision, and that would be how, remember in those episodes we talked about how, do we really need to have the Marvel, the long-ass Marvel, like, fanfare open every single episode? And we talked about how maybe they should have had a shortened sequence for the TV shows entirely. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I think maybe it must have been, I know I noticed this, I think sometime when Loki first started, but I think some of them do have an option to skip the intro or skip the fanfare.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I noticed it.
Okay. So, just wanted to bring that back up and to button it up and say, there is a fix for those who don't want to like hear it. But at this point, I've just gotten used to it, and I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
I've been conditioned to it.
I mean, and I like the music going on.
I like it too. I also think it would have been cool to have like a variation. No pun intended. For the TV shows and everything. But true. as you were saying, we begin and Loki wakes up in hell? Is this where we're at?
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so then he's just like, what's going on? And all the other Lokis are just like, get up. Well, you gotta run. Because they point at a giant... Wow, I'm sorry. Okay, they point at a giant cloud in the distance and all that, and they explain that it's Goliath. I saw an A. It's not like Oliath or...
Yeah, the way that they pronounced it was like Goliath, the old biblical character, but remove the G and just say Oliath. It's this big... Well, I mean, it's kind of a pun in there too, because Goliath was this big creature. It is... this big creature in the sky that basically is there to eat anything. So, like, I guess the immediate implication is people who are, what do they call them? Pruned. They don't die, but they get transported to whatever the place this is. And I guess it's this creature's job to eat them.
Yeah, basically. And as they're running, you get this is honestly a really funny moment, but like Loki's just trying to like ask a million different questions, like, what is that? What are we doing? Where are we going? And they're all just like, we gotta survive. we gotta survive. And he just gets super annoyed at them, like, are you kidding me now?
You know what you just reminded me of? And Kyle not usually, but every now and then we'll bring up this whenever I say a word. You know how Kyle is when you say like a random word and then he'll just activate a reference from some show. You just reminded me like when you said that Loki was asking all these different like questions. Doctor Who, the first episode that you see Donna Noble in the wedding dress and she's like transported into the TARDIS and she's like screaming at the top of her lungs like, who the hell are you? Where the hell am I? What the hell is this place? This is exactly what Loki was getting at here. Although not to that intensity, but the confusion was definitely there.
Yeah. And then I guess you could say it's almost like a breakdown in Loki's case, but he's just like, what is going on? Like again, why are you younger me?
Literally.
Why?
This is exactly what I said last week, or what I said the week before. I don't remember which is which. But when Tom Hiddleston, when Loki said this in Thor Ragnarok, when he was tied up, and Mark Ruffalo's Hulk was asking, so what are you up to these days? And he's like, it varies from moment to moment. This is literally Loki's entire existence. It just changes every couple of seconds, like what his status is. Like at one point he was in Lamentus, he was about to die, then he gets back into the TVA, then he gets put in a time loop prison, then he gets back up and he's summoned to see the time rulers, timekeepers. And then he gets pruned and then he ends up in this whatever the hell he's in. It's like, man, Loki really can't catch a break, can he? He can never just be still in one location. The god of mischief, as they say.
Yeah. And then I like this one line where he just goes, it's like, I'm mad that I'm not even surprised that there's an alligator here. Like,
No, it's not that. It's not, no. But that line that you said of, I agree with you, it is hilarious. I think the wording on it was, I'm heartbroken that I don't even find it that strange that's an alligator, that I was an alligator or something like that.
Yeah.
Because of, well, that's the least of anybody's concerns. That being said, what the fuck? Like, alligator Loki?
Yeah. But basically, I'm saying, like, he's almost having like a little breakdown because he's just no idea what's going on. And I like the other line where he goes, it's like, I don't even know how many months it's been since New York and everything. I'm like,
how could he know?
How could he? You just play it out like he's been through so much already.
Has it been months or has it been years? Like, how? Or has it been days? Has it been hours? Like, how would you know if when you're didn't he ask this question a few weeks back? How does time move in the TVA? Does it even move?
Probably not. But yeah, and then they take him to their hideout, just underground. And so before they went to their hideout, there's a little reference on the like right side of the screen at one point. You see a helicopter, and it says Thanos, which is a reference to the comics. For some reason, Thanos had like a weird looking helicopter in the comics, but I love that.
The first couple of characters, we already mentioned Alligator Loki. And I believe all of them have like counterparts in the comics, right? So there's Boastful Loki, there's Old Loki, and there's Kid Loki. Those are the first ones that we immediately see that greet our variant Loki here. And whatever.
And Alligator Loki.
Yeah, that's one. There are a couple of things that they passed that they walk by that I really couldn't tell. I guess I have to watch it again but as I've been seeing, obviously, film Twitter, they're the ones that are dissecting all these Easter eggs. There are some things that are direct references to the comics. That helicopter thing, I saw it. I saw that it had the name Thanos on it. I didn't know what the fuck that meant. And then when I went on Twitter and I opened it up and I saw, and I'm like, oh my God. So fucking, it's also just so stupid, right? Like the idea that at some point the Mad Titan would need or use a helicopter like some kind of Batman villain to just transport around. It's like, damn, that's just funny, man. It's it's hysterical. It honestly is. There was also, and I do believe it was in that sequence as, they're trying to, as the other Lokis are trying to, whisk away our Loki to safety back to their bunker. There are other things that are hidden on the ground. Like, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, I know what it was. Well, the two big ones one of them was Mjolnir.
That's right.
It was buried underground. But right next to it, it was this jar. And that was, I don't remember the name exactly.
It's Throg?
But it's Throg.
Throg, the Thor frog.
Okay, yeah. That was that, and I was kind of like, oh, what is? I missed it at first. Like I just noticed someone jumping, but I'm like, oh wait, hold on, what was that?
I know. I thought it was like a miniature Thor or something that was trapped in there.
I didn't even notice that it was a Thor, but when I went back and I saw, I'm like, oh my God, it's Throg. Like, are you serious?
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's great. It's great.
But there were other things too, though. I think so. This is particularly as we're zooming down to the bunker, all the debris that is like, hiding the bunker underneath there. But beforehand, there was like a whole, you walk through a bunch of debris. That's just how it works, right? Mm-hmm. But there were other things that caught a lot of people's attention. One of which was the Yellow Jacket's helmet. The Yellow Jacket, which was, if you remember, which, you'd be forgiven if you forgot, because this was a couple years ago, and as Marvel villains on movies are as they're concerned, they can be really forgettable. But one of the things that people caught was that, I believe it was, I forget this actor's name, he was such good, but he was the main villain of the first Ant-Man movie. He was the Yellow Jacket. He also had the ability to shrink down as Ant-Man did, and then he disappeared. Or whatever, right? After I think the movie was over. And so, one of the things that you do see as they walked by was the Yellow Jacket's helmet, just sitting there.
I did not know that. That's cool.
And then, yeah, that was something. They really got really creative with these Easter eggs. There were others that I saw that I don't quite remember at the moment, but they were fun.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But yeah, so they made it to the underground bunker. Oh, there was one cool thing that happened where they were walking towards their bunker. And it was Loki kind of being surprised as to why the Kid Loki is the leader.
Oh, that's right.
And Old Man Loki was kind of like, you respect the kid, he's like one of the best out of all of us and all that. And when Loki asked like, oh, what was your Nexus event then? And he goes, I killed Thor.
And then just silence.
Yeah, because I was like, dang, badass.
And you see the look on Loki's face, it's like,
okay. Cool. And then I think so once they go inside their bunker, though, I think we cut to Sylvie and Renslayer. And
oh my god, hold on, I'm sorry. I just looked up the damn frog or Throg thing. So I'm holding up on my phone. I don't know how clearly David can see it, but this is what it looked like on the show. It's kind of difficult to see, but there it is. And then I'm going to swipe to the comic book character, and it's like, it's literally fucking Frog wearing Thor's costume. Like, I mean, it's just a reminder, like, man, I love how comics, you know, and I never, again, as somebody who's never picked up a comic in his life or is that versed with the history of the vast Marvel Comics universe, but what I do know is the more I know about them, the more I realize people really weren't afraid or embarrassed to try and do anything. Like, it's just incredible that this actually exists, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. You know what would have been a cool reference? I mean, I doubt they would have done it at all, but there was a moment where they combined the Marvel and DC characters, but like, so like one example was Xavier and
Professor Xavier,
the Green Martian.
And the Green Martian, okay. Professor Xavier, yeah.
Yeah, like they combined them both together. Like he was in the wheelchair, he still had the green skin and all that, and so like there was a moment where they actually like combined two characters from both universes, I guess, into one comic and all that. And I think it would have been cool if you got like some sort of reference of that or something. I mean, again, wouldn't have ever happened probably, but I don't know. That would have been awesome.
I mean, some people were saying, speaking of crossovers, a lot of people were really... there's a moment in the episode that we haven't touched on yet, but we will see a van... I think it was a van or it was a car. A car is being used with a big pizza on it. And people were really hoping that would have been the Pizza Planet truck from the Pixar films.
I thought that too. Which, honestly, that's a missed opportunity.
I mean, and especially since they own the IP, they can do it. I mean, we're living in a world where, like, Captain America is the new voice of Buzz Lightyear. I mean... It's happening. It's happening in that Buzz film that's coming out in a year or two. So,
that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I forget that's happened, but it's still happening.
Yeah. Okay, so it cuts to Sylvie and Renslayer, and you know Sylvie's telling Renslayer to like explain everything, like what the heck with those robots and everything. But Renslayer knows nothing. She was just as surprised as everyone else, and she wants answers. You kind of get this little truths between them.
Temporary
just trying to figure out everything. Temporary truths, yeah. But we get a explanation as to what happened to Loki. And basically, you know, you can't really destroy the matter, I guess, from when they get pruned or anything. So they just sent them somewhere else, apparently towards the end of the universe, basically. Right. That's apparently where they're at.
I think she called it a void.
A void. And there's a... Wait, did she explain Alioth? Yeah, like something... I mean, we know this later on either way. That Alioth is there to just consume them and properly destroy them from their... from existence, basically. And... the reason why they prune them like that in the first place is because they need to make one disappear and bring another from basically a different timeline to like reset the timeline. Right. That's basically how it works. Which, I mean, cool. I like that we got an explanation about it and all that.
Some questions here. To the way that how this works. So, when we see the void, obviously, we just talked about a whole bunch of debris. We saw, I think, the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. There were ships. There were, I think, a destroyed New York City. We had We had a great shot toward the beginning of the episode where we zoom in on a destroyed New York City. Again, the VFX just astounding. The quality of them, to see them on the small screen is just so beautiful. Props to all of them for being able to, the VFX artists for being able to do this. It's just amazing. But, so, because it's not obviously just people who were caught and pruned that are here. It's all of these other things. And I think in that explanation, Renslayer says that when they're resetting the timeline, all of the things, and I think we also saw this as well, like when we saw back in episode 2, when they had a reset charge, and we saw the timeline branch being erased, we didn't see all of it burn to the ground, which suggested that not everything and everybody in this branch reality died, but just the items of the person, or the items that the person had with her or with them, were also like erased from the timeline. We saw them like just like pruning and kind of being like, you know, destroyed. And so I'm going to assume that all of the debris that we're seeing in this void is a result, and I do believe Renslayer said this, of the reset charge just trying to remove that from that branch reality, and then it sends it all here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, basically. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. And then as far as Renslayer is concerned, I'm curious. In this moment, while she and Sylvie have this temporary truce and Miss Minutes is looking up the files or the information that they need, did you believe in that moment that she was telling the truth, that she had no idea who was behind this? Later on in the episode, I feel we get a definitive answer as to where she lands and whether or not she was being truthful. But as far as like in this moment, in this scene, did you believe her when she said she had no idea in that moment that the timekeepers were fake and that she also wants to know who was behind this? Or were you of the mind that in that moment she was using that to keep herself alive, or are both true at the same time?
I guess both. Yeah. I don't know. I automatically believed her that she didn't have any idea, mostly because she had like a big devotion to the TVA,
tyrannical devotion at that.
Mm-hmm. And also because of the last episode when at the beginning of the episode, she's seeing the timekeepers and all that, and she looked scared of like meeting them and all that. And then the way she talked about them afterwards, she had the line of, it was like, meeting them under good circumstances is already scary. So under these, like, she was scared out of her mind. So I feel like if she knew they were fake, she wouldn't have been worried.
You know what? That actually is a really good point. And then as an aside, yeah, after we were introduced to the timekeepers, who wouldn't be fucking freaked out? That shit's scary. I mean, the whole platform, the whole like room, it's like, damn, it feels like they're in a freezer and it's just like going hard. And yeah, they don't look like inviting people whatsoever. So I understand that. Yeah, I guess that's interesting. I just feel like, so. Yeah. I just felt like she had more of a hand in the conspiracy that was going on than apparently she does. Because there are moments that you do see she enjoys being a bad guy. We saw it last week where she was like being an asshole to Sylvie when all she wanted to know is, what was the Nexus event that caused me to basically ruin my whole life? And she was like, I don't remember, with a big fucking bitch smile on her face. And then here it's like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I just assumed, based on like how, especially the events of last week's episode went, that she was in on what was going on. But I feel the episode makes it clear that she really wasn't, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And that she may have been one of the quote-unquote true believers of the propaganda that was, laid down by the TVA. So that is interesting. And so in this instance, we see Sylvie. And I love how what was hilarious enough, like toward the tail end of this particular sequence, right? I don't know, was it Miss Minutes or was it Ravana that was saying, oh yeah, we have somewhere in there, we have some plans for a pod that will transport us directly into the void. Which, I mean, immediately you could tell she was fucking BSing. And I don't know who was it first that said it. Was it Miss Minutes or was it Renslayer?
It was Miss Minutes, but Renslayer got the message that she was making it up and everything, which is a really cool. It was
hilarious
cool.
to see Miss Minutes oh, it's right here, hon. Just give me any minute now or something like that. She's finding the plans that are completely non-existent. And then all the while, Sylvie catches on and she basically was like, initiating a handshake with Renslayer, all the while basically holding her hand, to keep her in killing distance because she was already suspecting that she's lying and everything. And it ends up that she was, and then they're attacked.
Yeah, and so she was just basically stuck in a corner. She's hoping to find a way out, but there was nothing to do. And so she pruned herself. And this is the first time I heard it, but whenever they prune someone, is there a ding in that effect?
I don't, in this moment in time, recall there being a ding. Was there a ding? Did you hear a ding noise?
I heard a ding noise when she pruned herself. So I was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of funny. And so I wasn't sure if like they did that on all the other times and everything. And
no, I don't seem to recall there being one. And at the moment, I don't seem. Maybe you know what? Anytime I ever say that. I heard it one way and you heard it. I think you usually are more right than I am in this case. So let's say there was a ding. Maybe it was just more subtle in the other times that we saw people being pruned. I don't know. I can't really recall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. No, it's just, I find it funny. Like, okay, that's an odd little sound effects to add.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think at that point it did make sense for Sylvie, the only way to get out of this, because if she were to stay, I guess she would have been like kept a prisoner or something. But at this point, she does have the information that when people are pruned, they don't die. Now, I guess the only bit of suspense on her part is whether or not she fully believed Renslayer, and so she From that perspective, she may have taken a leap of faith. And at that point, the only kind of alternative in her mind. And so you see the reaction from all the other agents. Like, she's self-pruned, and no one's ever done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And then Renslayer is off to go, I guess, to her own devices. Remind me. Is this later in the episode, or is this in this exact scene? Do we also see Renslayer and Miss Minutes walk away and have a conversation?
That's later on.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, what happens next is we cut back to Loki and the other Lokis, and we see them like actually inside their
the palace.
Their palace, yes, I guess. And they're basically just kind of having a conversation, but you get to hear the other Loki stories. Mm-hmm. One of them, the one that had like the golden hammer, he said that after that he killed Iron Man and Captain America.
Oh, the boastful Loki.
Yeah, boastful Loki.
Yeah.
And like he's telling him like, oh yeah, they had all that, but then the TVA took me. But Alligator Loki was just like, liar.
Yeah, so, full of shit. Come on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In what universe would Loki ever do that? Which is, Yeah, it's just the sad nature of him. Like, he was never really much of a villain, was he? I mean, really, he was never that good at it from what we see. So, yeah. So that was boastful. And then we get into old Loki, right?
Where you find out alligator Loki's.
Yes, I keep forgetting he's there. I'm sorry, it's a fucking alligator.
Yeah, but his Nexus event was he ate the wrong neighbor's cat. It's dope. It's funny. But yeah, then we get to Old Man Loki, and his was really interesting. Basically it went along as exactly like our Loki story up to where Thanos killed him. The only thing though is that he the one that we saw die was just an illusion,
right?
Which some of us guessed. That's probably what happened when we first saw Infinity War.
I know a lot of us felt like, because I don't know, I remember watching it, and like while I was fully believing the impact, the emotional weight of that moment, especially with Thor, and really setting up Thanos as this really, really bad heavyweight here, and it's funny when he said like no resurrections this time. Yeah, that was wrong. But a lot of us couldn't help but feel like, is that really the end? Is that really the end of Loki? Like, are you sure he didn't do a fucking projection, faked it? Because how many times has he faked his death at this point? How many times? That's the thing with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, I mean, we assume that's what happened. I mean, it could still very well be that's what happened in Infinity War. It's because we find out that after the explosion of the ship, he just wandered in space until he found the deserted planet, and he just lived there for the rest of his days until one day he just finally decided, okay, I think it's time for me to leave and find Thor. He really wanted to find Thor because he felt lonely. But as soon as he stepped off world, the TVA found him, got him. Which, damn.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Spent his whole life just like missing his brother. And the minute he wants to be better and wants to do better, the TVA steps in, which is really a sad commentary in and of itself. It's like, and I think he says these words, if not someone else, but the minute that we try and be and better ourselves, we're prevented from doing so, particularly by the TVA.
And I saw someone point this out, but you know, people were wondering like, what was her Nexus event? What was Sylvie's Nexus event?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently someone pointed out that it wasn't necessarily an action that she did. It was just that she was a good person. We gotta like pay attention to what she was doing when she was playing with the toys, but apparently like there's something there that like kind of showed that she wasn't being like this villain or something, like destroying a ship or anything. Like, no, she was actually like doing something good, like playing with the toys. But then when she's at the TVA and she sees this guy like getting like thrown around and all that, she yells like, help him.
Yeah, help him.
Yeah, which is that actually threw me off. I'm like, really? Like, you want to help the guy? What
You're
the heck?
supposed to be a
You're
Loki.
Yeah. And so that was the one thing that I noticed. And I think that theory is correct, is that Sylvie's the good guy, basically, out of all the other Lokis, which I find kind of interesting.
So basically, and I think that's a really good theory, and I think maybe subtly it may have been in there the whole time, in the text, actually. But to think that Sylvie's crime, or the accused crime that was placed on her by the Time Variance Authority, is she just happened to have compassion. Mm-hmm. She just happened to be good. And that can't be. And that can't happen, because it's already been written that Lokis are supposed to be this. And so she can't be that. So her very existence really could have been the Nexus event.
Mm-hmm. And
man, these people are bad.
Yeah, and then one thing, I don't know, this isn't exactly proof that she's good, but this is definitely something big in Loki's life. But Sylvie, she knew from the beginning that she was adopted. while Loki found out later on that he was adopted, and that kind of had an effect on his mind, because for the longest time he thought, he couldn't achieve greatness because of his brother or because of his dad, but really it's just because he wasn't going to get greatness within the Asgard because he's not Asgardian. And so for Sylvie, finding out that she was adopted from the beginning, maybe she just kind of accepted the fact in her place that she's just gonna be, maybe she thought she could still stand side by side with Thor. It's just she can never be greater than him.
Right.
So who knows? But yeah, that was a sad line.
Yeah.
And so back to the bunker. After hearing their stories, Loki's just kind of like, come on, we gotta do something. Like we gotta destroy that monster. We gotta, kill it, get out of here, and just stop the TVA once and for all, and all that. And he mentions I gotta go back there because there's another variant of us over there trying to stop TVA, and we have to help her specifically because she's not trying to take over the TVA. She's trying to destroy it. And I think that's one thing that keeps coming up afterwards after this, is that the motivation is different from everyone else. Her motivation, Sylvie's motivation, is different from everyone else's. It's always just take over, take over, take over. And what I like about this episode is it kind of shows this importance of the first Avengers movie. And if you remember, it was after he stabs Coulson. And he goes you're going to lose. And he's just, oh yeah? Why is that? It's you lack conviction. And basically saying your motivation is just, you're lacking the motivation. And you can almost say it goes back to Infinity War. Thanos thinks his motivation is going to drive him to accomplish what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. So when he suggests the idea of destroying Alioth, they all just start laughing at him and just be like...
I was waiting for the laugh. I was honestly waiting
same.
for it because, he finishes off this big speech, and it's in my mind I'm thinking they're gonna laugh, right? Because they're taking too long of a pause here. Because at first they look as if they're being taking it somewhat seriously, and then all you hear is just loud laughter, and it's hysterical. It's actually pretty. But I was waiting for it, and it's when it hit. And then, it's because of course these are Lokis, but these are Lokis that are kind of destitute to their fate at this point. Kind of like how Sylvie was, although she was the exception where she kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. Lord knows for how long she's been doing that. But as far as these Lokis are concerned, there was no way out. There was only to survive. And that is kind of what Lokis do best. And so for them, surviving in and of itself was enough for them. But that's not who our Loki, the one that we've been following, is anymore. And it's interesting how we see throughout the episode, once he's put in with as many variants of himself as possible, that in just these couple of episodes, we get to see how much he's grown. The most substantive growth that we've seen any Loki or Loki have the entire MCU. This alone, to me, is the reason enough to have this show. Reason enough to watch this and for it to exist. And it's great. It's great. It's great character development, really, at the end of it. And then what happens, David? We see more variants.
So he's just screw you guys, and he leaves the bunker. And as soon as he opens it, we see another variant, Loki, and it's the one that we see in the trailers with the vote for Loki pin and all that.
I think they called him President Loki.
Yeah. President Loki. And still, great costume. I like it. It's just a regular suit. I like the horns. It's awesome. But we find out that apparently...
Boastful Loki sold them out.
And everything. And it just leads to this chaos. Well, actually, I forgot to mention. So President Loki has other people around him, and I don't know if those are variant Lokis.
Yeah, I saw that some people were not convinced because they didn't act like Lokis, or at least you couldn't really pinpoint that they were. I feel the implication is they were Loki variants, were they not? What did you feel?
I mean, I thought they were at first, but then someone, but after like watching it, made me think like maybe they just had like those horned helmets too because they're following Loki, and so that's just kind of like trying to copy him. And so I don't know.
I don't know either. I guess my assumption was that they just were other variant Lokis. Because now, if we're in a position where we're not entirely convinced that they are, that suggests maybe they didn't do a good enough job of conveying that thought.
Yeah. But basically, they're all together and they're all trying to figure out the leader, but it just kept leading from one betrayal to another and to another.
That was hilarious. So honestly. Just the reaction on Tom Hiddleston's face the entire time. Our Tom Hiddleston's face, like, while all of, like, so many fucking betrayals and backstabs. Perfect.
Yeah, basically, like, he's getting annoyed, like, seriously? We're just constantly backstabbing each other? Like, what the fuck? And it just leads to this fight and all that. And it looked cool, the fight. Loki's just trying to get away and everything, but it leads to Old Man Loki getting our Loki, and he creates these illusions of themselves, and they're fighting everyone and all that. And he opens up a portal, and him, Alligator Loki?
Yeah.
No. He does escape?
No, yeah, Alligator Loki, Kid Loki, and Old Loki. They all get away with our Loki. Boastful Loki is left back there because, of course, he betrayed them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they all escape and everything, and so now they just, they just kind of have no choice, but they just do what Loki planned, which is to destroy Alliath. I forgot to mention, Alligator Loki bit off the hand of President Loki.
Yes, that was funny. That was so funny.
That was just a funny scene. And then I think I want to say we cut to Sylvie, but I'm pretty sure it's Renslayer now with B-15.
That's right. Okay. All right. So let's say it's that one.
B-15?
Yes.
So she's in her office and she opens up like this hidden place, basically where B-15 is in prison, and she asks her like, "Why did you do this? Like, why'd you help her? What exactly does she want?" or something like that. And B-15 is just kind of like, I think she's right. We gotta take down the TVA. She had a life before this and all that. And now that like what she found out, now she's just gonna want more answers. And B-15 can tell that Renslayer wants answers too. And it goes back to the whole motivation thing. It's just like, you want answers too, but for you it's a want. But for Sylvie, it's a need. Like, she needs these answers in order to live. With Renslayer, like, she's... Yeah, it's literally what she said. It's a want.
It's kind of like it's exactly what you were saying earlier before. Coulson's line of, you lack conviction. She may not have the right motivation, basically, whereas Sylvie is determined to find out this information at all costs. Right? And so, but yeah, interesting conversation we have there between Renslayer and then B-15. And then what else happens there? Then next she walks out the door with Miss Minutes.
Yeah, she walks out the door and then we see Miss Minutes again. She asks her to find files of like the beginning of the TVA and like who's running it and all that. And she tells Miss Minutes it's because, whoever's in charge, like whoever's really in charge, they're going to be in danger now because of Sylvie. And yeah, that's basically it.
What do you make of that, though? Do you feel like she said that to keep Miss Minutes off balance? Because, like, is it possible that Miss Minutes because there have been some really wild conspiracy theories out there. Is it possible that Miss Minutes is the only one that really knows, like, who's behind this, and she's holding back things? Or, and putting that to the side, in this situation, could it be that Renslayer is, because she says to Miss Minutes, whoever is the creator of the TVA is going to be in danger and they need protection. Okay. Is that really the reason why she wants to know? Like, shouldn't she personally be upset that she was her entire existence and her whole, ideology, and it's just been a complete lie? Is that really what she's jumping to? Is she really going to go protect them, or is she going to go kill them?
I don't know about kill them. I think she just really wants answers to the whole thing, because her world is still turned upside down. She's just kind of like, she's just focusing on the goal right now, which is to find Sylvie, and the only way to find her is to find the person in charge of the TVA. And yeah, she could be saying that just to kind of like trick Miss Minutes in getting info, but at the same time, though, she's not wrong. Like, the person in charge of the TVA is in trouble. So I don't know. We'll probably get a definite answer in the last episode as to like what exactly she's gonna do when she finds the true leader. But I really have no idea what she would do.
Right. What do we see next?
Yeah, so we got to Sylvie. She wakes up at the apocalyptic world and all that, and she sees the cloud running towards her. She's running away, and at one point she touches a piece of the cloud, and you see like these images popping up, and basically she was able to, just for a second, enchant the Alioth. And as she's running, this car comes up, and it's Mobius. He's alive.
Yay! I told you. Fuck this show. They're gonna kill him. Fuck it.
And so yeah, he comes with the car and has the pizza thing on top of it, which is I still wish it was a Pizza Planet reference. That would have been great. But yeah, they drive off, and somehow they end up finding Loki and the other variants later on, and so they try to come up with a plan. Loki tells her, we're going to destroy the thing. Sylvie's just like, really? Just destroy stuff? Come on. I got a better idea. We can enchant it. I did it for a second. And so the reason Loki wanted to destroy it is because he thinks that, because old man Loki said that, we're in a shark tank, and Alioth is the shark, basically. But Sylvie saw it a different way, which is, no, that's not a shark. It's like, it's not a shark. It's a guard dog. Whatever it's guarding, it's going to lead us to the leader of the TVA. And so I thought that was cool perspective, I guess, which just shows, she's different. And so they're basically just, I guess later on, they're just trying to get ready. Got this a really sweet moment. Like I said, I think this is better written than episode 3. But Sylvie and Loki are sitting together, and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do after this, after they stop the TVA, and both have absolutely no idea. But I think they're still trying to figure out their feelings, and they want to hopefully be together after this. Who knows? But yeah, it was just a sweet moment between the two. What'd you think of that scene?
No, it was this is why it's conflicting for me, because it's so great and it works so very well. But at the same time, I do feel like it would have been that much more impactful if we had gotten maybe this in the next episode, maybe not so much here. Like, this is where it starts to feel like there's like really a lot of things going on at once, like we're kind of rushing toward the finale. It's kind of one of those examples. But as far as the scene in itself is concerned, Tom Hiddleston is a world-class actor. And again, it's like, with him and with Elizabeth Olsen and with Anthony Mackie, they've been given chances to do some things in the films, but these TV shows just give these actors just the ability to actually act in a new way, in a much more emotional and impactful way than we were even able to get a chance to see in the films. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see these characters experience emotions and to experience growth and to have arcs. It's beautiful. And have him also, have this scene with Sylvie is, I feel like we're fully in the mind now that Loki is basically fucking in love with Sylvie. And honestly, it's kind of adorable to watch that happen, especially to somebody who has been so unloved throughout the entirety of his existence as a character. And to see how much it also seems to mean to Sylvie to have some kind of connection of which she's been deprived her entire existence. Both of these actors really do sell the emotion and really do sell the scene. Just beautiful, beautiful, It's cold, and the sly moves of Loki using his magic to conjure up a blanket that, of course, isn't enough to cover both of them. It works so well. No, I definitely do buy them together at this point, if only just because of how both of those actors have just sold it entirely.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I wanted to say though, I real quick, going back to the whole Mobius reveal of picking up Sylvie and everything, I kind of, the minute I saw that car, I was like, that's Mobius, like from a distance. Only because I think I remember seeing a trailer shot of him driving a car. That's what it was. So now, this may be a bit of a nitpick. I don't know. Maybe it was just a little bit of a difference. I do wish that Mobius's entrance was a little bit more grand than it was. It just kind of felt offhand like, hey guys, I'm here.
Yeah. No, it really was, especially because of all the places she landed near him. Yeah. And he happened to find her. It's just big coincidences, especially when they end up with the Loki and the other variants later on. Yeah,
it's like he had a great death, quote unquote, in the previous episode, and I really would have wanted a much more momentous of an entrance than just like, hey guys, I'm here, Sylvie, get in the car, let's go. Okay. It was fine. It was just like, come on, I want a little bit more to that. Come on, Mobius deserves it.
Yeah, I get it. We'll see. We still got another episode.
We still got another episode. That's true. Yes.
So they're all getting ready. They're seeing Alioth and all that. And they're all kind of just saying their goodbyes, basically. So Sylvie's ready to take him on. Loki, he's going to stay beside her and take on Alioth too. And Mobius goes back to the TVA. Now, at first I kind of complained about this, but why didn't Old Man Loki and Kid Loki go with Mobius back to the TVA and help him take it over? That's just my little complaint.
Yeah, they really should have. I think in the moment, though, I think from a plot mechanization standpoint, later on in the episode, we do see one of the reasons for why they had to have them stay there. But also, that's I think that's the plot reason why they didn't go anywhere. But as far as what they were trying to sell in the story, it's like, well, it seemed as if they had no interest to leave. Like they've just kind of resigned themselves there, which okay. Yeah, okay. But ultimately, I do understand some of the issues with why people would have problems with it. It's like, well, you have a chance to get away here, and you kind of don't want to go. All right, nothing here is really keeping you there. And then also, Mobius is going back to the TVA. What is he thinking he's going to do by himself? Like, he kind of needs help. So, again, all of this stuff we will know when the finale finally airs next week. But at the moment, I can understand some kind of reservation with, like, the thinking behind this. And I think maybe the only answer is, well, because we need one of the characters here for a big moment later on.
It still could have been written better.
Of course it could have, yeah.
I explained like how they could have done it better. But for right now, so what happens is, so everyone leaves, they're going to do their own thing and all that. Sylvie and Loki, they're by Alioth, and Loki becomes a distraction for Alioth while she hopefully finds like a little strain of the cloud, I guess, coming towards her and enchant him. Loki's distraction wasn't working. It was heading towards Sylvie, but in that moment right when he was about to attack, we see this like green light popping up, and it's just this giant illusion popping up, and we find out that it's Old Man Loki that's causing it, becoming the big distraction that they need. And that was fucking epic. Oh my god.
Epic, yes, man.
Like Richard E. Grant, just like, I love the way he did it though. Like, it's almost like he's lifting something up super heavy. And as ridiculous as his costume was, he still looked badass doing it.
He rocked it. Oh my gosh. It worked.
It really worked. This is why they need to be accurate, goddamn. No, I was kidding. I'm kidding. They don't need to be accurate. But yeah, he's basically, the illusion he's creating is Asgard. He's making, which I think it could be because, he missed Thor. He missed his home. I mean, could be the reason. It could have been he could have created any other illusion. I think Asgard was important.
But again, how fucking impressive were those VFX? Like, wow. When I saw that pop up on my screen, I was almost gonna jump out of my chair. Like, what? They had money to do this? This is impressive, honestly. Aside from it all, obviously being a great character moment for old Loki, serving as a distraction for this.
Yeah, and then I like the moment with Loki and Sylvie. They're like, how is he doing that? And Loki says, I guess we're stronger than we thought. We were. And that kind of, it almost serves like a little motivation between the two. And that they both start enchanting Alioth together. And it worked. But Old Man Loki got killed before they could do that.
But man, did he go out in a... It almost reminded me, though, we just had the 25th anniversary of Independence Day, one of my favorite movies. A movie that is like like the epitome of 90s cheese, but so good in that regard. But one of the best moments of the film is the character. Hilariously enough, if you remember that movie, the character who was the pilot, one of the pilots, who I believe, like, if I'm not mistaken, I think no, it wasn't. It was somebody else. But he apparently was a native resident of the Imperial Valley, which is one of like the biggest moments that had a mention to Imperial Valley. And again, I'm a resident of Imperial Valley. We're kind of a place that nobody knows is even on the map. And that character in the film Independence Day was abducted by aliens. And he got one of the big moments toward the end of the movie where he got the big, like, I think in the words of my generation, up yours, as he flies into the spaceship and it explodes and everything. He goes out in a blaze of glory, which is kind of what it reminded me in this instance where we have old Loki, Richard E. Grant, just like, in the best over the top way possible, just scream out glorious purpose as he's holding the projection and he's, devoured by, Alioth. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's so badass. I wanted to rewatch the episode before we did the podcast, but and I have time, but I'm gonna watch it either way after this. Like, that's such a great scene. And you mentioned the composer,
Natalie Holt.
Yes, and this part, like, you know, is, I think this is the best moment for the music to pop up right here.
Yeah,
it's so badass. But they managed to, Loki and Sylvie managed to enchant Alioth, and this like portal opens up, and you see this, I guess it looks like a castle of sorts and all that, and it's basically towards the end of the universe, the void, and that's where the episode ends. Big cliffhanger.
And what a cliffhanger it was. So we've reached the end of the episode. So let's get into speculative moments. Some pretty convincing evidence about who might be showing up and what it's pointing to, considering the great work that all the people out there on film Twitter doing all these videos about, like, you know, breaking down all the theories. People really, really bent over backwards, and they fell down a massive rabbit hole for weeks and weeks and weeks, thinking that Mephisto was going to show up on WandaVision. So much so that anytime now anybody says Mephisto, it elicits laughter. It's become such a joke. It's like when people mention La La Land, people just start laughing because they think about not the movie, but because of how it lost out, you know, Best Picture at the Oscars. That's how much of a joke it's become. And so people are trying to refrain from going through that same mindset as how it happened, you know, in months back. However, is this going to be Kang? I think we mentioned this before a couple weeks back. Is this, you know, Kang? The difference with you know, Kang and Mephisto are both villains, quote unquote. The difference with Mephisto is people are going off from that theory, but that character had not been cast or even mentioned was going to be used. Kang not only is confirmed to be used in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the next Ant-Man movie, but it's already been cast. The role has already been cast with Jonathan Majors playing the character. So those are the differences here and there. David, is this Kang?
One thing that kind of convinced me it might have been is that what Alioth is in the comics. And Alioth, I'm going to try my best to explain it, but I'm going to probably fuck it up. But Kang the Conqueror, you know, he conquered, I don't know what, maybe the world, maybe the universe, you know, at a certain time, but like this was thousands and thousands of years ago. Alioth conquered a certain part of space and time, like in the future, I guess. And so they were both stuck in each other's past and like in the void. And it was Renslayer in the comics that released Alioth, which then later on conquered Kang's world, or like his point in time and all that. So like there's just a bunch of things, like a bunch of comic book references that has more. This is referencing more of the comics than WandaVision did. The only thing WandaVision had was that, you know, she created like an illusion place and Agatha was there. That's really it. You know, but for me though, like this is dealing with time and space, which is what Kang is a part of and all that. And again, you get Renslayer, you're getting Alioth and all that. And I do think Renslayer is still gonna. She is probably going to protect the person who is actually in charge of the TVA, and it could be Kang. If like that's the only reason why I think she would protect the real leader, is because if it's Kang, then yeah, she's gonna protect him. Mostly because, again, that's kind of her character in the comics, but also because, you know, the TVA is all she knows. She probably wants to protect it and all that. So it's just all these things that are coming up that does make me believe that it could be Kang.
Yeah, I sent some photos on just right now in real time. I sent some photos over to your phone of some of the evidence that people have collected online, and it all just seems like it's pointing in one direction, right? Like we're not ones to say like, oh, a big Marvel villain is actually going to be used like this, but it seems like all signals point to Kang for doing this. Especially if you look at the images that have been lifted directly from some of the texts that deal with storylines like these. Now, if it is Kang that is responsible for this, does that necessarily mean we're going to see him here? Or, because like, can it be a satisfying situation? I'm asking you seriously, where Loki and Sylvie arrive at this place. They find out that it's Kang that's responsible, but he's just not around. And then Renslayer shows up, and then Renslayer and Loki and Sylvie battle it out. Can that be a satisfying conclusion?
I don't know. I think it mostly just depends as to the big thing's gonna depend on is why is one person in charge of the sacred timeline, or is he even in charge? Is there even a sacred timeline? Like, they put in a bunch of, like, it doesn't matter who it is. Like, it could be Kang, it could be Doctor Doom, someone like guess that, just stupid. It could be fucking even Yellow Jacket or something. You know, he got sucked into somewhere and became leader of TVA. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just like, as long as the answers that we get fits to what we've been asking, then that'll be a satisfying ending.
If not Kang, then who?
I have no idea. We're getting deep into comics that I have no idea about. So, I
mean, this happens in the MCU is like, what, 12 years old now? And we're getting into shows, so this kind of does tend to happen when we get to this point. But yeah, it is like, the imagery is pretty it's like a castle in the sky. It almost reminds me of like Jack and the Beanstalk. And then the whole like situation with the android timekeepers really like felt Wizard of Oz. You know how they all just, you know, the man, ignore the man behind the curtain or something, and I guess we're about to find out what it is. Yeah, the places are all set. How's it gonna end? I have no idea. Like, especially since, like, what's the ending gonna be like? Are we guaranteed to see the Lokis run the TVA now? Is there gonna be a TVA after this whole thing is over? Is it going to the events that happen? Are they leading up to the Multiverse of Madness saga that we're going to see? Does it set up, or is it more concerned with setting up some stuff that we'll get in a much anticipated, not confirmed, but a much expected second season? A lot of questions. A lot of questions, and I guess we're going to have to find out and see what it is. Although, again, we have to put an asterisk up there, right? And that is, what has been the pattern with the previous two shows as far as the finales are concerned? They've been, well, they've had, what's the best way of putting this, David? They've been serviceable to good to strong. They have their weaknesses and strengths, but generally speaking, if you look at the last two shows, people were they weren't underwhelmed, but they weren't like over the moon. It was like they were good. They're good, but like the finales haven't necessarily like rocked anybody's world, if I'm not mistaken, right?
True, but I mean, you gotta remember though, WandaVision, you know, they got hit with COVID, and so they had to like
that is true
all stuff and all that. So who knows?
They were also filming while COVID was happening. I think I saw some photos today of Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston filming this episode, and they had I think Hiddleston had his mask on, and then most of the crew were wearing masks. So I think WandaVision may have had it when it was really bad.
Yeah, and then with Falcon and Winter Soldier, you know, they had a storyline where they were like, the bad guys were gonna send out a disease and everything. Basically, like, it was hitting too close to home, and so they kind of had to rewrite
That's right. I forgot about that.
So both of those shows were really affected by the pandemic and all that. This one, though, because it was such a way out there story, I don't think they had to
rework anything creatively.
Worry so much. And then they already, I'm sure from the beginning of production, they already had to work through the COVID safety guidelines and all that. So, you know, what you get in these past episodes, you know, you're kind of going to get here in terms of like the fighting, if there is fighting, in terms of cinematography. You know, it's going to be consistent. I think it'll be a bit consistent from the past episodes. So, who knows? But, you know, I do think the episodes were getting better and better as we went along. And I really love this one. It was so fun. It was fun. I really liked the moment between Loki and Sylvie. And we didn't talk about it much, but right before Mobius left to go back to the TVA, you got this really nice moment between him and Loki. They hugged each other and all that. You know, they're really accepting each other as friends now. And Mobius had that funny line, looking at Sylvie and going, "You're my favorite."
Owen Wilson's amazing. The idea that we could have finished this show without him involved is unbearable. How Palpatine would say in episode 2, when of course he was being obviously facetious when he said that, oh, you know, Padme, if you died, I would really die. He really wouldn't care, really. But in this case, we're just so happy to see him back. And yes, that was a very lovely embrace between the two. And so what that means for the finale, who knows? Ultimately, who knows? Before we go, can we just say, I don't know, did we talk about last week? You know how it ended in that post-credit scene of Loki seeing all those other Lokis? Did we mention the memes going around? Because, man, the memes have been on fire lately. Seriously.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it was with Mobius. And he's like, am I dead? You won't if you don't come with us. And it's him from Night at the Museum, Zoolander, fucking Cars.
I think Wedding Crashers, too.
There was other characters.
I think, yeah, his character from Wedding Crashers. Oh my god, man. That must have been one of the best memes I've seen in a long time. When Peter shared that, I think it was either that day or before, it's like, this made me laugh so hard. Yeah, man, that was hysterical. That was honestly one of the best memes I've seen that have come out of all of this. Oh my god, it was so funny. Also, we just have to mention it. What have you made of all the fucking family memes? Fucking Vin Diesel. Like, how does this keep going?
That is the best, honestly. Like, people are freaking killing with that meme. I love it.
Oh my god.
I love the one with the portal scene. Which is no, I don't know if you sent it or I saw it, but it was the one with Rise of Skywalker. where what's his name? Poe was just like, there's too many of them, but there's nothing we can do. And then fucking Dom is showing up, but it's like, it's not in spaceship, it's all the cars from the past Fast and Furious movies, like right behind him. It's so fucking funny. Oh my god.
There's so many Marvel related ones as well. The two that really just like made me burst into laughter. One, like, I guess, Black Widow's having her movie this week, right? But one of them was of Nat's sacrifice scene in Avengers Endgame on Vormir. And it's basically Vin Diesel's Dom, just like, I guess, he beating her to the punch or something for family. And then him in his car just like throwing himself off the damn cliff as a sacrifice for the Soul Stone. Like, this was so good. I'm just like, what do you...
I like the one that was like, I am Groot. It's like, no, we are family.
No, the one that I thought was actually pretty like that worked, kind of one of the better ones because it was actually used in the show, was the one I shared with you from S.H.I.E.L.D. That one was like, I mean, I'm sure I'm hoping people would like see it again. I feel like you have to watch the episode to really get it because they actually use it in the finale. Where it's like Coulson says to Daisy, "This is what we were fighting for," and she's catching her breath, like family. And then in the meme you see Dom just like, exactly, that's right, man. he didn't even have to say family. He was just like, exactly.
Oh my god, I love it.
Best week for memes maybe ever. Honestly, they've been on fire. I can't wait to see what else they have to show. And so, yeah, that's it. Anything else to say?
No. That's it.
All right, then. Well, David, thank you so much. It was a lovely conversation. We hope that all of you enjoyed it. As a reminder, you can catch our podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, anywhere. Every single Thursday for the Loki reviews and Sunday for more coming your way. We've got some wonderful, wonderful movies and TV shows to talk about with you in the future, so we can't wait to have you back with us. Until next time, stay under the spotlight and we'll see you. Bye-bye.